It is with pride I am standing here in front of this assembly, because you have done most that I can think of on the proactive arena. Maybe you are leading the world's league when it is about proactive decision making throughout the value chain in your industry. Furthermore, I have the first slide. Furthermore, the first one. Furthermore, PVC in itself has qualities that contributes to the pride I feel. But secondly, we need role models of your kind, which will be very, very, has the capacity to spread to other sectors as well, because good role models are the thing we need the most today of all things to save the world. So I really mean that subtitle, PVC for saving the world, and I will try to explain why. Maybe I will switch slides myself. I have the remote control here. The whole world is in the dilemma you heard initially from the chairman presenting the challenges we have. It is like society is moving deeper and deeper into a funnel of declining resource potential to sustain the world. We get higher and higher concentrations of pollutants, less and less biodiversity, less and less coral reefs, lower and lower water tables as an average at the global scale. At the same time as we get more and more people on Earth. At the same time as trust between people and their institutions are eroding at the global scale, at a time when we need trust between people more than ever to deal also with these environmental issues. And to that end, goes without saying that a product of your kind has opportunities to really make a difference. It's light, it's strong, it's cheap, it's enduring, and it's plastic. That's why some people call PVC plastic like that. You can shape it to whatever you like in a very cheap mode. It has challenges, of course, but it is a phenomenal compound and material that can actually play a difference in this declining, the funnel of declining opportunities for the future. If you look at these opportunities, it's obvious, if I ask you the rhetoric question, what will resources cost as we keep losing them in this funnel? And there will soon be maybe 9 billion people bidding on the remainders. Will prices go up or down? It's an insult to wait for the answer. And if you are relatively, your competitors, more part of the problem than the solution, what will happen to your insurance costs, your waste management costs, your opportunity costs, your productivity, loyalty of staff, and so forth and so on. So it's all a matter of moving in the right pace towards the opening of that funnel to become part of the solution. And that's a winning game regardless of what the others do, and it's very easy to show scientifically. So regardless what the others do, to gradually become part of the solution is a winning game, because your costs will be lower, your opportunity costs will be lower, and your chances of being innovative to future markets will be greater. Of course, if you are alone in your company doing this, you are on Titanic. You cannot change the world on your own, but you will run first class on the journey. You don't need to sit there and wait for others to do this, losing competitive edge from taking on costs for sustainable development. People who believe that simply haven't got it. This can be explained in a few minutes, and believe me, I've been doing this for 20 years after the first scientific modelings and so forth. You never get any resistance from the most competitive, aggressive CEO in the world. They don't say, no, we are not losing habitats. No, we're not losing forests. No, we're not getting more people on Earth. You don't get that kind of attempt to rescue the situation for embarrassment or whatever. That's not what they say. So what's the problem? Why isn't there a rush towards the opening of that funnel? Because they all have it in their tummies. They realize that being part of the solution is a winning game. And the forerunners, if they do it in a nice and strategic fashion, will win. Well, the reason is this. When it's Monday morning, and you have that knowledge in your system, and you seek the answers for the everyday doings, you drown in information. How do you organize everything which is said towards a robust definition of sustainability and a strategic way to get there? The reason why we have this is that there is a lack of a unifying framework by which we can understand the big picture and help each other get there. All of society is sectorized, and many businesses are as well. Each expert dealing with his or her stuff, digging deeper and deeper down into drill holes of ever-increasing depth until only the feet are sticking up of all those nerds down there discovering new stuff. But there is very little that connects all those experts at the level of their heads. People don't know what's going on in the other drill holes. We are drifting apart as knowledge keeps growing. There is an example of how you can get beyond that. From my old job, I'm a cancer scientist and a clinician. I was heading a cancer unit. And it's called a clinical conference, which is a beautiful example of the opposite, when drill holes really can cooperate. It's very easy to understand. Mrs. Anderson is now going to die because she's suffering from cancer. Unless we cure her, of course. And to cure the patient, we need the pathologist in his or her drill hole because now we need an exact cellular diagnosis. And we need the radiologist because now we need to know the distribution of the tumor. And we need to have the medical doctor, the surgeon, the physiotherapist, the nurse, the social worker to mobilize family and work life and society at large behind Mrs. Anderson. And together, we cure well above 50% of cancers today. And by cure, I mean cure. So they die from something else at a high age. What's the difference here? Why can these drill holes cooperate so efficiently in this case, while we seem to be so confused in society at large and across industries when it is about moving towards sustainability? The way they do it is that they project success ahead of them. Mrs. Anderson also has a funnel. Her time is running out. And if we fail to do the right moves, the funnel will close and that will be the end of Mrs. Anderson. But if we make the right moves, we can open up the funnel and then go the other way and open more opportunities for her in the future, if we do it right. And doing it right means that at that point of success, that healthy system symbolized by a tree, we know at the level of principle exactly what that entails. It's a sharp definition. And we all share it across all those drill holes so that we can cooperate. The definition of cure of cancer is very easy. It's two principles. At that time, if we score, we have killed the last cancer cell in her body, but we have not killed her. It's very easy to kill all cancer cells, but the trick is to kill it without killing the patient. And this was guiding science before it had happened the first time. And it's still guiding what we are doing around that table in the clinical conference. Now the patient is a global civilization suffering from the deadly disease unsustainability. And to cure this patient, we need industries and policymakers and economists and so forth knowing exactly what that means so that you can draw from each drill hole and then cooperate across value chains towards sustainability. And that's why it's fantastic. That's why I am proud to be here today, and because through Vinyl 2010 and now further to Vinyl Plus, you have paved the ground for exactly that. Cooperation across value chains, cooperation of a whole sector. And I really think you've set a role model for the world. So in cancer you have two principles. In football it's the same. Score more often than the other team while adhering to the rules of the game. In chess you have 4 principles of checkmate. How many do we have for winning the game on sustainability, to turn it to sustainability? What are the definitions or what are the principles that define sustainability? That was the quest that needed a scientific exploration, which was the reason why the NATO step was founded 20 plus years ago. So what we did was that we explored the system and asked ourselves, why do we have this funnel? And we took into account all we knew about why it functions, why the biosphere can be expected to provide life and sustain civilizations for around 2.5 billion more years, as long as the sun gives us the right temperature. Why is that even feasible? Well, it is by a number of reasons that we went through. And then we asked ourselves, so what kind of activities upstream at the first level of approximation is society destroying the biosphere? And we came up with 4 principles. First of all, we are using mined materials such that they are allowed to increase after end use systematically to higher and higher concentrations of CO2 and phosphates in lakes and cadmium in kidneys and so forth and so on. Secondly, we allow also chemicals. Nothing is wrong with chemicals. We are made of chemicals. All of nature is made of chemicals. But when we use chemicals in society such that waste molecules are systematically increasing in concentration, that too is inherently unsustainable. And the third is that we are removing natural systems physically with more and more bulldozers and overfishing and chainsaws and asphalt put on vital land and so forth. And furthermore, our decision making is performed such that we erode trust between people, which is the key element of the social system. So by looking at the thousands of threats, and believe me, there are many, many more than on this list, and then looking at it with the eyes of aggregating them to first-order mechanisms of destruction, it was possible to define sustainability. When this patient is healthy, mined concentrations are no longer systematically increasing, nor are chemicals, nor do we systematically remove physically natural areas. And third, we do not erode trust anymore, we deserve it. So it seemed possible to define sustainability at that trunk and branch level for clinical conferences throughout value chains and industrial sectors to really be operative and function. There's one big but. Just like with patients, we don't live our lives to avoid cancer. We live our lives to meet our aspirations for the future and our dreams. And to that end, it may be unwise to smoke 2 packages of cigarettes per day and doing a number of other things that may cause cancer. But those are only boundary conditions for our lives, and it's the same in industry. You don't wake up every morning and walk to your jobs to avoid unsustainability. So what you need to do is to use sustainability principles as boundary conditions for the visions, the missions, your strategic goals, what you want, and integrate it. And we have evidence, mountains of empirical evidence, that the most successful companies are those that have done that integration at the top management level. And then use such integrated targets as objectives when they guide the big investments. So the sustainability arena should be run by top managements, with middle managers and experts on sustainability as the sounding board. It's when the big decisions are made in business that tie up resources and money for long time periods that it is deadly dangerous to do stuff which will bring you outside the walls of that funnel, because then you will be hit. It's not a matter of if, you will be hit sooner or later by costs, tax, insurance costs, lost credibility on the market, and so forth and so on. And then you use money as a strategic means to get there, and you allow your competitors to have bad luck all the time and hit the walls of that funnel. So this is a dynamic game. Then we put this definition of sustainability into a process by which you can run it in real life. And remember, this is very, very concrete. It's not some kind of philosophical wish stuff. Top managements use this in this process fashion. So A, they understand this together. B, they assess today as the position on the chessboard in reference to the winning principles. And then all the challenges and assets we have today are listed. Then they list opportunities for tomorrow. What would be inherently sustainable and meeting all our other targets for the objectives of this company? And the D step is the strategic one. How do we select the stuff invented in a brainstorming session in the top management? What of that do we put priorities on and do relatively early so that it brings us in that direction, will be a smart chess move for the forthcoming moves, and will bring income enough so that this process can go on. So this is a very intuitive way. This is how people make business anyhow. This is how you're strategic anyhow. Why not apply it also for sustainability, which is already today the main long-term driver for competitiveness in business? It has been like that for very long. It is the strongest long-term growing trend of all. And because sustainability issues are about survival, and survival is very convincing in the end, it will continue to grow harsher and harsher until we have got it sustainable. Why putting your dreams and your visions and your missions outside boundary conditions of what can be in the future? That is the business case of sustainability. Then we have explored this and tested this as a clinical conference throughout business. We have used it in a number of business organizations and demonstrated that it works. It works in the finance business, it works in retail, producing companies. And if any company, the mining company, the trucking company, the construction company can use it, they can create B lists of challenges and assets, C lists of opportunities, compare notes, and begin cooperating across value chains. And therefore, it's also growing faster than ever at the level of municipalities and cities. It's today well over 200 cities doing this, which, by the way, provide a growing arena for making business for proactive companies, of course. In the beginning, it was very small municipalities, and now we count larger and larger cities. Just the other day, Eindhoven decided to move along and merge forces with Dublin and Portland and others. And then we have written and published reports. This is the CEO of Electrolux, today he is CEO of Volvo, who recently explained in what way he had earned billions by foreseeing problems on the future markets. He began this journey 15 years ago. And it was not until 10 years later he understood how many billions he'd earned from doing it. This is Ray Anderson, the founder of Interface Flooring, who used those principles, the sustainability principles. We call it the top of Mount Sustainability. And this is the host of the Winter Olympics, Ken Melamed, who has used this to create cohesion throughout sectors in his municipality. The whole Olympic village was built on renewable energy systems. And they have this merging of forces across sectors have really created a sort of atmosphere in Whistler that made the United Nations give them the prize for the most proactive city in the world. So we've actually managed to define sustainability as that lighthouse. You may approach it from different angles depending on your business, but the principles are the same, and this opens up opportunities for the clinical conference I was talking about. Finally, a few words about this. There are so many tools and concepts for sustainable development that they have become to be perceived as confusing. But I've not talked about the tool. I have talked about the big strategic perspective of full sustainability in the whole biosphere and how to put any organization in that context. If you do that right, which we have also published, you can ask yourself, if my organization is to comply with those principles, for what purposes can I use ISO 14001? For what purposes can I use life cycle assessments, eco-efficiency, cradle to cradle, and so forth? And for what purposes can I not use these tools? And I was invited by UNEP in Paris to answer that question by cooperating with the pioneers of those tools. And the conclusions that we arrived at together using this framework to explore what different tools do and what they do not do was that there are many good tools and concepts around, and they are good for certain things because they are made for certain purposes. But none of them can replace what I've been talking about now. The big definition of sustainability, the overall strategic perspective of moving there for self-beneficial reasons and why you should do it. It's a matter of competence. Then you can use tools much more effectively by putting them in the right context. This was done for PVC for the first time throughout value chains in the history. Companies like Hydropolymers and others were challenged by Greenpeace, as we heard initially. That company put that goal of success to see how departments of their company and participants of the value chain could cooperate to that goal. It was all put into a white paper of sustainable PVC at a stakeholder dialogue, including Greenpeace and scientists and producers and clients using PVC, where they responded to the challenges set up by the 4 sustainability principles. Some strategies were elaborated to get there stepwise, earning money all the time and allowing the others to have bad luck. This led to the 2010 challenges, where you have a need to control the life cycle of it so that it doesn't grow on garbage dumps or disappear, which this high-performing compound should not. There should be no more accumulation of organochlorine emissions. Additives should be used such that they too do not increase systematically in concentration in the system. What is that? How can that be arrived at? Beyond cadmium and lead, as you heard, but there are many, many others that cannot be used in, for instance, consumer goods if you want to stay within that sustainability principle. And then, of course, sustainable energy systems to get there. And to make this happen, you needed the whole supply chain. So the outer circle, the sustainability awareness, is to demonstrate that this needs to be comprehended throughout the value chain. And to that end, the forerunners within the Vinyl 2010, who wanted to take the next step to prepare for Vinyl Plus, designed a web learning using my university, where I have my chair, and the Nature Step, and together we created a web learning to engage the whole value chain. And this is the first time we met outside my university. On that picture, there are a few people in this audience. 2 of them came from Roman Haas. They went back home, and they designed their internal policy documents. And here you can see how they shaped their principles that would define complete sustainability for them, and how they are playing chess to move there stepwise. Eventually, they were purchased by Dow, which is a huge potential for them, of course, to bring this into top management, and there are policies underway that makes us hope this will happen. And then, of course, further to Vinyl Plus. So, in conclusion, sustainability is about survival of civilization, and that is very convincing in the long run. And it will be more and more convincing as we enter deeper and deeper into the funnel of unsustainability. What we need now more than ever are role models, strategic decision-making, that understand that this is profitable. To understand this better than competitors is profitable, regardless of what they do. Do not sit and wait for others to do it, and only then it will be fair to competition and so forth. This is a dynamic game. That will not help. And it's a phenomenal way of managing system boundaries. You do it by purpose. What in the whole world do I need to take into account to comply with those principles? The other stuff I need not take into account. So you use purpose as system boundaries. Your definition of success. It is only if you can define sustainability that you can calculate the resource potentials of it. If you only knew how many companies in this world that are investing huge fortunes into technologies that cannot even theoretically bring them to sustainability, that will be punished later on as flawed investments. And that we cannot afford. Good guys doing the wrong moves for the right reason, because then we will run out of good guys. We need this as a strategic competence game. And it is only if you know where you're heading that you can deal with trade-offs, because you can be absolutely certain that if something is good for something, it is bad for something else. And how can you take the bad with the good? You can't, scientifically, unless you know exactly where you're going. And then you can sacrifice a little piece in chess for a higher cause. But you can only do that in a multidimensional system if you know where you're going. And again, that is a strategic decision-making process that you cannot even begin doing unless you know how to define sustainability. And it is phenomenal to be part of a clinical conference where you share an understanding of the goal together with the others. It's wonderful to cure cancer. It's wonderful, it must be great, to be integral part of the leading example of cross-value chain cooperation towards sustainability in the whole world. I guess you know what you mean, and the pride you feel now from the Vinyl 2010. The problem now is, the last thing I'm going to say is, will you now step up to that full global challenge of saving the world? And it means, very simply, to get off the penance stuff, looking at what you did before, trying to do less harm, how Vinyl 2010 started actually to do less harm. To build on the learnings from the 2010, that this is an aggressive move towards sustainability. So please get out of that mental set of treating sustainability as penance, doing what we did before with some less harm as a sort of penance, to really understand that this is the opportunity of this industry, and you will help other industries as well if you step up to it. So I think that this is Vinyl 2010, and these are the forerunners within 2010, like Hydropolymers and Roman Haas and Omja and Kemsen and others that have really begun to shape the new ground for the forthcoming steps. And my challenge is that. And I know you're up to it, so I don't say good luck, because this is all about competence. Thank you so much.